They told me to retire gracefully. I told them to mind their business. Instead of bingo nights and bridge clubs, I booked a one-way ticket to Australia. Alone. No group tour, no overplanned itinerary. Just me, a backpack, and a desire to hear myself think without anyone interrupting with, how do I connect to the Wi-Fi again? I found the perfect little house, a charming, creaky thing nestled in the bush, miles from anything resembling traffic or responsibility. The kind of place where birds sing at full volume by 5 a.m., as if auditioning for a nature documentary. Honestly, the cockatoos here are louder than my neighbor's grandkids back home. And that's saying something. The air smelled like eucalyptus and freedom. Trees were blooming, all golden and wild, and the sun wrapped itself around everything like a lazy cat. I walked around the garden barefoot, pretending I was some kind of earth goddess, until I stepped on a beetle the size of a grape and screamed like a Victorian lady seeing her first ankle. But still, no one asking me what's for dinner. No one asking me to explain how to reset a password. I made tea, sat on the porch, and listened to leaves rustling like they had secrets. It was bliss. Well, for about 36 hours. Because just when I started congratulating myself on achieving perfect peace, I met my first possum. Bold little fellow, looked me straight in the eye while dangling upside down from my porch beam. I said, "Hello?" He hissed. That's when I realized I came looking for serenity, and instead, I'd rented a house where the wildlife doesn't believe in personal space. But did I run? Oh no. I poured another cup of tea, nodded at the possum, and said, "Fine, but I'm keeping the bed." That was just the beginning. I didn't know it yet, but something even wilder than that possum was coming straight for my fruit bowl. And it had powerful legs. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not the panicky type. I've been through 3 husbands, 2 hip replacements, and 1 incident involving an espresso machine and a loose parrot. I do not frighten easily. So when I came back to the house that afternoon and saw the front door standing wide open, I didn't scream or faint. I simply stood there, squinting like a suspicious owl, and muttered, "Well, that's not how I left it." My first thought? Maybe a breeze blew it open. My second thought? I didn't leave any windows open. My third? Oh dear, I hope the possum didn't bring friends. I tiptoed inside. The air felt wrong. Too warm. Too alive. You know that feeling when someone's been in your room, moved things, breathed your air? Yes, that. Then I saw the apples. On the floor. One was half-eaten. One had a perfect bite taken out, right through the middle. No human I know eats apples like that, unless they're deranged or toothless. There were muddy prints by the table, but not quite footprints. More like if a child wore clown shoes, shaped like fat sausages, and hopped. Still holding my breath, I crept toward the kitchen, clutching the only weapon I had, a rolled-up newspaper with a Sudoku puzzle I never finished. There were noises, soft shuffles. Something thunked. Then, silence. I edged forward, peeking around the doorframe like a nosy neighbor in a soap opera. And that's when I saw him. A kangaroo. A real, live, adolescent kangaroo. Standing in the middle of my kitchen like he owned the place, holding a banana with both tiny paws and chewing it thoughtfully, like he was reviewing it for a food blog. He turned his head slowly. Calmly our eyes met. I froze. And I swear on my best teacups, that kangaroo looked at me like I was the intruder. We stared at each other in a kind of interspecies standoff. He blinked once. I blinked twice. He took another bite of the banana. Deliberate, smug. And do you know what I did? I nodded. Because what else do you do when life goes completely off the rails? You accept the banana-eating marsupial in your kitchen and move on. I whispered, "You must be joking." He flicked his tail. I looked around. My fruit bowl was empty. The bread was gone. A single cracker lay on the floor, stepped on. The tea towel was on the ceiling fan. My spoon collection? Rattled. Something had clearly gone down here. But here he was, the only one left at the scene of the crime. The burglar, the guest, the accidental roommate. I took one step forward. He froze. Another step. He bounced back, not aggressively, just cautious, as if to say, "Easy, lady. I'm not done with this banana." He made no move to leave. So I did what any reasonable woman would do. I opened the back door wide and stepped aside like a maitre d' at an odd little marsupial cafe. He looked at the door, then at me, then at the banana, which he promptly shoved into his pouch. His pouch! And with the grace of a caffeine-fueled ballet dancer, he hopped straight out. Gone. Just like that. No thank you, no tip, no 5-star review. I stood there, in my ransacked kitchen, blinking at the chaos. Overturned chairs, paw prints, banana peels, and a lingering smell of eucalyptus and mischief. And I realized, this wasn't just a visit. This was a declaration. Australia didn't care about my peaceful retirement plans number. It had sent me a banana-eating, bold-as-brass kangaroo to say, "Welcome to the wild side, Grandma." And that was only Tuesday. They say after the storm comes calm. In my case, after the banana theft came Malcolm. Yes, I named him Malcolm because he had the same expression as my late Uncle Malcolm, mildly suspicious, always judging your life choices, and clearly believing he deserved better snacks. Now, I didn't invite him back. Let's be clear, but Australia is a free land, and apparently, so is my kitchen. He returned the next day, noon sharp, walked straight through the back door like he paid rent, looked around, sniffed the fruit bowl, empty, gave me a long, disappointed stare, and hopped into the living room like he had better things to do. And thus began what I now call the coexistence phase. I tried to set boundaries. I closed the door, he stared at it until I opened it again. I tried putting food outside, he brought the grape bunch inside. I ignored him. He stared at me through the window with the patience of a monk and the attitude of a teenager. Eventually, I gave up. I started leaving out a few grapes. Just grapes. He loved them. Ignored everything else. Turned his nose up at crackers. Hated carrots. Didn't respect my homemade vegetable soup, knocked it over once with his tail and didn't even flinch. I raised 2 kids and 1 lizard, I told him sternly. You are wilder than both. He blinked at me, then burped. One afternoon, I found him on the couch, watching a nature documentary. Not really watching, just facing the screen, while chewing something that was once part of my houseplant. He looked at home. Too at home. So I tried a new tactic conversation. "Malcolm," I said, "this isn't sustainable." He didn't respond, of course, but he did sneeze. We had our routines. He'd come in mid-morning, inspect the kitchen, chew a few grapes, bounce around the hallway like he was checking security, and then sit by the window like a house cat who'd seen some things. He never came at night. That I appreciated. He had manners, in his own chaotic way. But he was testing me. One morning, I woke up and found my oatmeal all over the floor. The bowl was upside down. The spoon was missing, and there were tiny wet paw prints everywhere. And in the middle of the mess, 1 lonely grape, untouched. I found the spoon later, in the laundry basket. That's when I realized we were in a relationship now. Not romantic, heaven forbid, but a very peculiar form of domestic partnership, where one party communicates via stomping in grapes, and the other party spends her golden years Googling, "Do kangaroos understand sarcasm?" I started telling my daughter about him. She thought I was lonely. "You need a real companion, Mom," she said. "I have one," I replied. "He's furry, judgmental, and doesn't like soup, just like your father." She wasn't amused. But I was, because even though Malcolm was a walking whirlwind of paws and bad table manners, he made every day different, unexpected. And after years of routines and quiet evenings and crossword puzzles, that's exactly what I didn't know I needed. One morning, after a restless night, I woke up feeling unusually refreshed. I stretched and decided to leave the living room where I had fallen asleep, watching the moonlight flicker on the walls. Quietly, I made my way to the bedroom, hoping for some peace before the day began. But as I pushed open the door, I stopped dead in my tracks. There, in the middle of my tiny bedroom, was Malcolm, my wild kangaroo roommate, rummaging through my suitcase like it was the most fascinating treasure trove. He wasn't just poking around. He had somehow managed to wriggle his head through one of my bras, bouncing lightly with the bra stretched over his ears like some kind of ridiculous hat. For a moment, I just stared. Then, with a mix of surprise and amusement, I said, "Malcolm, that's definitely not a hat. Come here, you cheeky devil. And so began the chase around my little house. Malcolm hopped off my bed, across the floor, and darted past furniture as I stumbled after him, trying to catch the bra-wearing kangaroo before he caused more mischief. He bolted out of the bedroom door, and I followed him into the small living room, then through the kitchen, and finally out the front door onto the porch. From there, I ran down the short path toward my nearest neighbor's cabins. A few of them were just stepping outside and stopped to watch in surprise as I chased Malcolm down the dirt road, the bra slipping off his head like a crown tumbling from a merry monarch. Some neighbors laughed. Others just shook their heads in disbelief. One even joked, "Looks like Malcolm's taken quite a liking to your laundry." After a few laps around the porch and garden, I finally cornered him behind a large eucalyptus tree. Breathless and laughing at the absurdity of it all, I gently untangled the bra and gave Malcolm a look that said, "You're lucky, you're cute." That morning taught me a simple truth. Sharing a wild life with a kangaroo means expecting the unexpected and embracing the chaos with a smile. Maybe Malcolm wasn't such a nuisance after all. Maybe, in his own wild, unpredictable way, he was exactly what I needed. Sometimes life throws you something completely unexpected, a wild kangaroo in your kitchen, of all places, and it shakes you up. It makes you stop and think. We humans like to think we have control over our lives. We plan, schedule, set boundaries, and expect the world to follow the rules we create. I came to Australia looking for peace, for quiet days surrounded by beautiful nature, where nothing would disturb me. But what I got was Malcolm, a bold, cheeky roo who showed up uninvited, ate my grapes, spilled my oatmeal, and made himself right at home. And you know what? That forced me to rethink a few things. Malcolm didn't ask for permission to be there. He just was. He lived in the moment, fearless and free, and that's something we all envy deep down. How often do we hold ourselves back because we're waiting for an invitation, for the perfect timing, or for someone else to say it's okay? Malcolm just hopped in and took over, and I had no choice but to adapt. Maybe freedom isn't about controlling every detail, or locking your door so nothing unexpected can happen. Maybe true freedom is about opening your heart and home to the chaos, the surprises, the things that don't fit your neat little plans. Life is messy and unpredictable, and sometimes that's a good thing. Malcolm reminded me that we can't always be in control, and that's not weakness. It's strength, the strength to let go, to laugh when things go sideways, and to find joy even in the madness. He made me laugh when I felt like crying. He made me think about what really matters. And maybe, just maybe, he helped me remember how to live a little more boldly. So here's to Malcolm, my wild roo, my furry chaos, my unexpected teacher. Life isn't about writing the perfect story. It's about dancing with whatever music is playing, even if it's the sound of kangaroo feet on your kitchen floor. And that, my friends, is a lesson worth remembering. One morning, Malcolm didn't show up. At first, I thought maybe he was just running late, out chasing some wild roo adventures. So I waited. I even prepared an extra bowl of grapes and bananas, just in case he decided to stop by for his usual snack. Hours passed. The sun moved across the sky, the birds sang their evening songs, but Malcolm was nowhere to be seen. That's when it hit me maybe he had moved on. Maybe my wild friend had returned to the bush, to his own life beyond my little house. I felt a strange mix of sadness and gratitude. Sadness because those days of unexpected company and hilarious chaos were over. Gratitude because, in his own way, Malcolm had taught me something precious about freedom, spontaneity, and the joy in letting go. I smiled softly as I realized that no matter where he went, Malcolm had left his mark not just on my welcome mat, where I'd find little paw prints every morning, but on my heart. Sometimes, the best goodbyes aren't about holding on, but about cherishing what was and trusting the journey ahead. And so, with a warm heart and a quiet goodbye, I stepped outside into the golden light of the Australian dusk, carrying a little piece of Malcolm with me forever. You think you're too old for surprises, and then a kangaroo eats your breakfast. Life doesn't end when you retire. Sometimes, it just hops in through the kitchen door. So next time you think your life is too quiet, leave the door open. You never know who'll show up. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell because there's always another story just around the corner.